What's going on, guys, and welcome to September's episode of Plus Club, the show where we play the games offered on PlayStation Plus throughout the month, and at the end of the month we talk about them. My name's Seth, and joining me today, of course, is Chevy. Chevy, how you doing? Since we just did a review of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Episode 10, if you guys are interested in watching our review of that, if you're watching that show, check it out over on Tasty Flicks, link down below. How you doing?
Doing good. Looking forward to... Well, first off, going through this month, but then moving into the next one, and also with our game of the month coming up as well, seeing what you guys picked. So,
yeah, and with that mentioned, this is the last episode that you can vote for Game of the Month. It is our community pick Game of the Month in October, which is right around the corner, and the rules are you can vote on any episode in September until Game of the Month comes out. We'll have everything tallied by then, and we will be finding out what you guys picked for Game of the Month. So the rules are simple. Type in the comments right now a game name. Just gotta name one, something within reason, and it'll get added to our list of 17 games so far. So we have plenty to choose from. And and just a little behind the scenes in case you want to feel a little more motivated maybe to vote, because maybe a game you want is not on our list. The game so far that we have on our list is Labyrinthine, which I believe is a cooperative Phasmophobia style game. Would be very interesting to see Chevy play. Cyberpunk 2077 makes sense with the expansion that just came out. Forza Motorsport 8, which comes out on the 10th of October, so we can play that, but it'd be a mid-month game. And then we got Baldur's Gate 3, of course, one of the biggest games of the year. Payday 3, Mortal Kombat 1, Halo 2. Somebody's going a little old school. Definitely doable, though. DayZ, which I think would be very interesting to see Chevy play, because I think Chevy would like DayZ outside of the very human elements of that game. You said we can probably do a private server, though, which would be cool. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which would be another interesting one for you to play. Lies of P, which I have downloaded. I haven't played it yet, so that'd be a great reason to play that. For Honor, which I had no idea was still around and people still played, but I know the people who do play the game are dedicated to that game. So I'm sure playing that game for us, we would just get annihilated by anybody still playing that game. We also got Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which is another game that comes out in October. So that'd be a very topical game. But I do believe
brand new games on the list.
I do believe. Well, I asked people any game, and as long as it's playable, I said we'd do it. So I think that game comes out the 20th. So we would have a short window to play that.
Yeah.
But it is doable, so we'll see. Sid Meier's Pirates, which is a very old game, and I checked. It's on Steam, $10, so completely playable. Would be an interesting one, even though putting that video out as a review for Sid Meier's Pirates in 2023, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of views outside of the people from the community, but that's kind of the point. So 6 Days in Fallujah, which would finally give me a reason to play that game. That is a tactical shooter. So a lot of people say it's very scary because it's so intense. Lords of the Fallen, which also comes out in October, so that would be an interesting one, especially with that co-op I'm really curious about. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which is the RPG, I think. And then the last one is Sea of Stars, which I've heard nothing but great things about. So those are the games so far that are up for grabs for our community pick. And how it'll work is we already have made the wheel. All those are on that wheel. And we will either... I'm still trying to figure out if I want to do a process of elimination and just spin the wheel until we get to the final 3 and then do it that way, or if I just want to knock it out and the first one that lands on will be the second runner-up, the next one will be the first runner-up, and then the last one will be the winner. Still trying to figure that out, but we will have 2 runner-ups. They'll be added to our normal list. They'll still have a chance to come up on future Game of the Months, but the winner will be the October Game of the Month that you guys picked. So, hopefully that makes sense. If there's a game that you want us to play and talk about at the end of October that's not on that list already, if you pick one that's already on there, it won't matter. Put it in the comments. Otherwise, those are the games, and I'm really excited to find out what game we're going to play because, honestly, I would be interested in playing all of those games. So it's going to be a good month no matter what for me, I think. Even though there's a lot of like games I don't own on that list, so I'm going to be spending money, I think, on a game if it wins. Yeah. So outside of that, I'm doing good. I'm feeling surprisingly energized for 3:30 a.m. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the games that we played in September, which were Generation Zero, Saints Row, and Black Desert. And before we talk about those games and our impressions of those throughout the month of September, we have the games for October already announced. 2 of them were leaked a day before, and then we got the third one the day after. And those games are the Callisto Protocol, which I'm very excited to try this because it's a game I never pulled the trigger on that I really wanted to play. Farming Simulator 22, which I'm having PTSD flashbacks of trying to farm in the middle of the night and having 3 people running 40 miles per hour after me and jumping all over my tractor. So let's hope that's in this as well. And then Weird West, which I believe, because I own this game, is a top-down RPG cowboy game. So yeah, I'm actually really kind of excited outside of finding out what you guys pick for game of the month for this month, because I've played Weird West. I'd like to play it some more, so this would be a perfect reason to play it. Farming Simulator, the last one, I thought was kind of satisfying to play. And the Callisto Protocol, after becoming a major fan of Dead Space, after playing the remake, I know I'm late on that, made me want more from the people who made that, and these guys happen to have made the original Dead Space, so really excited to play the games in October. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know anything about Weird West, so that's just kind of...
I'll be interested in what you think of it.
Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. Farming Sim 22, I'm sure I'll get some entertainment out of that. I tend to like a lot of those kind of like weird simulator games anyways. And Callisto Protocol will be difficult.
Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, Chevy is not the biggest fan of like horror games. He doesn't like the jumps and the adrenaline and stuff like that. So
if you couldn't tell by my energy levels.
So. Yeah, so I might just play it in front of him. And so we'll obviously add that caveat if we do review it that way, because then you will know his impressions are based off of what he observed and not what he interacted with. But it is what it is. Yeah. Anything else? All right, let us know in the comments. What do you guys think about October's games? Luckily, the Tuesday that these will be coming out is early in October. It's kind of always weird with PlayStation Plus. So
because it was the first Tuesday, like first week Tuesday.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a week into fucking the month when we get access to the PlayStation Plus games, which I kind of hate. And so we'll be able to get our hands on these games early, which is awesome. So, yeah, let me know what you think of these games in the comments below. All right, so to remind you guys, we played Generation Zero, Saints Row, and Black Desert. So let's talk about them. I feel like we should start with, because I have the least to say about it, Black Desert Online. If you didn't get a chance to play Black Desert Online, it is an MMO, a full-fledged MMO that's very action-based. It features a shitload of classes that I was not prepared for. I played this a long time ago, and there wasn't this many classes. So a lot of classes, a big, huge world to explore, a story that I did not follow, and then when I looked up what the story is, there's all these videos going, yes, Black Desert indeed does have a story. So apparently a lot of people aren't getting the story of Black Desert. And yeah, a lot of sandbox style mechanics, because this is definitely a game that you probably should be unemployed if you play it regularly, because you're going to have to put a lot of time in it. Also features a plentiful amount of menus. There's so many menus in this game. Yeah, we both played it, and how about we start with your impressions of Black Desert in September?
Okay. I have also played this on PC in the past. That's not what I'll be talking about here, but I will probably have some comparisons.
I've played this on PC in the past, and I've played it on my phone. And they're very similar experiences.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. Take that how you will.
So the first thing I kind of noticed is that it looks better than I originally thought it was going to look from first impression of the game. But I had seen a console version of this before on the 360, the Xbox One.
No. Yeah. Wasn't the
The
360.
Xbox One. And it looked really bad there.
Fun story. The first time and not the last time ever, my PS4 screamed at me like a jet engine. It was when I downloaded Black Desert. So I have played this on console in the past, but barely. I went to the character creator. And I started making my character, and for the first time ever, my fan and my PS4 just kicked on and started going. I was like, I've never heard that before. And then after that, every once in a while, games would do that. I'm like, Black Desert fucking hurt my PS4. It was a pro too.
So then you're kind of put in a position of like picking a server, and there are a lot of them, and they all do something different. So that was kind of a process itself, because there's PvP server, PvE server.
I just picked the one that had
servers.
an XP boost.
Yeah, newbie servers, etc. So I picked a season that had an XP burst or boost as well, and then introduced to all the classes in the game. And like you said, the difference between the last time I played and this time, there are way too many classes to pick from.
There's like 60 classes.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. It's actually nice that they have that many classes in the game.
Yeah, they've been supporting it.
I went ahead and I settled with Nova, which is a mace and shield character with frost element attacks. And I just kind of went from there. The story starts in two places now, it seems. They have another starting zone, but it had recommended that you had played the game before picking that one, so I did not pick that one.
I almost picked that just to see like new content, but then I was like, I barely played into the original game, so I should probably just start there.
Yeah, so I started in the original starting zone. And then I kind of just sat there and hit the auto run to next quest button over and over and over again for the next like 6 hours, while I just mindlessly killed things and talked to people, and then talked to my little dust mite buddy, which is pretty much the extent of what this game was for 6 hours for me. I hit level 20 in that time. I don't know what the story was, because at no point did it really grasp me. If I had to guess, you start with some other person. You're like a bodyguard for them until they backstab you because they needed you to get some power of some sort. And it's, I assume, a revenge story, because that is common in Korean storytelling. So
True.
So that's my takeaway so far. And now I'm just helping people, because that's what you do in MMOs. Let's see. So graphics, once I got in the game, were less impressive than they were when I was making my character. And I do understand limitations of console, but I was playing on PS5, which is plenty, I would assume, to play this game. So I'm confused on why because I've played it recently on my PC, and it looks way better on PC.
I watched a video when I was trying to find like story stuff, and it looked way better on PC.
Yeah, it's like kind of crazy, the difference, and there's no reason other than I think it's still running the PS4 version on PS5. I think it's the PS4 Pro version of it, and not. I don't think they have a PS5 version, unless I just missed that when I was downloading it. The one thing I did like is I do think the game actually plays really good with the controller. Combat wise, I actually think I preferred keyboard and mouse, which is kind of strange.
I prefer it as well.
Yeah, it makes more sense when you're like, you pull back and hit an attack, run forward with an attack. I don't know, it just feels more natural, I guess, for the type of combat system it is.
I kind of thought it was going to be like this too, because before we played it, I was like, I feel like this game's going to be better on a controller, and most of it is. I think it actually works really well on a controller, especially for the combat, and like everything's pretty simple. I don't like navigating the menus with the controller.
That's a hurdle.
I don't like navigating the menus anyway, but on a controller it's worse, especially when you hit circle and you just leave all the menus after you've gone into like 4 or 5 menus, and
no
you start at the
layering,
beginning. Yeah, it drives me fucking insane. That drove me crazy. Every time I was like, wait, I need to go back, it would just like leave the whole thing, and I'm like, oh my god. And like 1 time, 2 times, not a big deal. But like when it's always happening, I was like, dude, like just let me like go back a menu. So that was not great on a controller. But I do agree. Otherwise, movement,
Yeah, just
combat,
playing the game.
yeah,
Menus definitely keyboard mouse would be way better.
yeah,
That being said, menus for sure. This game, is older, but it's not so old that the menu thing is so forgivable.
Yeah.
Though it is very common especially in a lot of like free to play or like just pay to enter Asian MMOs in general.
It reminds me of a mobile game.
Well, so I mean, to draw a comparison to another, more recent for us, Korean MMO, Lost Ark. That game's also super menu heavy.
A lot of menus.
So that's just kind of, their philosophy with their games, at least in this department, which is funny because I play Korean mobile games, and they have menus, but it seems like they have less than these MMOs do. So, and they're a lot better planned. So I don't know. It's weird. I feel like they need to come up with a better way to handle their UIs on their PC games. But
Yeah,
I can deal with it, but I don't like it.
Sure, I mean, same. I just feel like I've been spoiled by a lot of like Western UI design where they're trying to make it more and more minimal, less time with UI and menus and stuff like that. And so going back to a very old school system of like going through a lot, like even to get to your inventory, you gotta like go to a menu, go down to a certain menu, find inventory in that menu, and like in a lot of games, like you just hit like I, and maybe there's a
Or
shortcut
B or whatever.
Yeah, maybe there's like a shortcut on the controller that I didn't know about, but yeah, it's not a good design.
Yeah. Yeah, and I play Final Fantasy 14, which is, it's not Korean, obviously, but it's an Asian MMO. And it has menus.
Yeah, it's got plenty of menus, but not.
But I don't feel like they're bad.
No, I agree.
So it's
But we can't talk about that too much because that's our game of the month, and we got to talk about
sure.
that
But to
tomorrow.
draw comparisons,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, outside of that though, combat feels good. I actually like playing it that way. I did experience graphical problems, which I sent you that clip of one of them happening, which was a light that when I wasn't in a cutscene was just on, and in the cutscene started strobing. Mm-hmm. And then also lag. I had, the game would bog down when too much was happening.
I experienced a shitload of pop-in, even in cinematics. There was one where 3 people were having a conversation. They kept looking over, and there's no one there. And then a bubble would pop up where somebody's talking, and I was like, who the fuck are they talking to? And then like halfway through the cinematic, the guy just showed up, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. So I don't feel like it's very optimized, and I don't know if it's I didn't play the PC version as much, so
I don't remember ironic. That being I played this more on just now than on PC.
So I don't know if that's just a console thing or if the game is just like that. It's hard to say, but in my experience, I ran into some of that stuff, and though not game breaking, it's a little jarring. Especially a strobe light happening. That seems like if you had if you were prone to epilepsy, that would probably be
epileptic.
Yeah, that'd probably be bad. So, let's see. Outside of that, the enemy placement is very old school as well, where there's just fields like filled to the brim with enemies, and they respawn pretty much instantly.
Took me back to the early days of free-to-play Korean MMOs.
Yeah, it's
like it's like go kill 50 of this, and you run to a field, and there's just constantly respawning people everywhere.
Yeah, this is like a 15, 20-year-old philosophy in a current game. So, and I don't know when this game came out originally, so maybe it is part of that philosophy. But
I think it's been out for like 10 years.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's not the best approach to that. Makes sense, when a game first comes out because you're gonna have so many people running around that you need to be able to make sure they can even play. But typically, you'll see them make adjustments as populations decline or normalize. So, yeah, I guess my overall impression though is there are things about it I like, there are things about it I don't like. Overall, I think the game is very playable. I think you're gonna get what you want out of it if you play it. As long as you're a little open-minded to a little bit of jank. I didn't really mess with crafting or housing or horse husbandry or any of that stuff because realistically we had a month, and I know I've heard from people who have no life this game in the past that these systems are a job, and I don't have that kind of time. So I did not and I cannot speak on the behalf of those things. But I did, just mostly do the typical MMO fare, which is quest, kill, level. And it was fine. Like, I wasn't impressed, but I wasn't really, it was par for course. So, but yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with almost everything you said, although I'm going to be a little more strong about I like certain parts of this game and I fucking hate certain parts of this game, at least on console. That is my impressions that I'm talking about here. I cannot speak for the PC experience, so if you're playing on PC and you're like, it doesn't do that, I'm talking about console. So yeah, I do think it plays better in most ways on controller than on mouse and keyboard, which was kind of something I expected, which was weird. So they did that well, except for I hate navigating menus. You do get used to it, but it's weird that anytime you talk with any NPC, you're hitting the bumpers to move around to figure out if you need to progress the chat for the mission or to leave. It's a system that I'm not a fan of, and I think with a mouse it'd be a lot easier because you're just clicking what you need to. But every time you talk to somebody, hitting the bumpers to move around on this little bar, I don't like the setup for controller. I also think it's weird on PC as well that so much of the game is like any MMO, running back and forth and talking to a lot of NPCs, but also just randomly having the little dude pop out and just talking to him randomly real fast. Like it kind of the flow of questing feels fucking sporadic, and there is no flow. I don't feel like I got the ball rolling in terms of my progression. I'm just kind of doing a lot of things that feels all over the place, very very sporadic. Combat is fun for the most part. I do think it's really flashy. I do think on a controller it worked well. You start off with so many moves, which is really kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
For an MMO, because a lot of times you start off with like 1 or 2 moves, and then as you level, you start getting used to them. In this, you start off with like 5, 6, 7 moves, and you're just like, whoa, okay, I guess I'm gonna learn this character. It's almost like playing a fighting game, and you're just like, okay, learn their moves. Also worth mentioning, I played the Corsair, which is like this pirate mermaid water character, because I did not know that character existed. I was like, I'm going to try out one of the newer ones. Newer for me. So yeah, combat for the most part, I do like. I don't like the way movement feels in combat in terms of when circles, like in every MMO, pop up. Because in a lot of games, you can run through the enemy that you're fighting, and this you collide with them, and it did feel kind of stiff too. So a lot of times, like especially with a fucking analog stick, I had to either choose to like turn around and run away, or run around their body, or like just turn to the left and run. And I found myself getting hit by a lot of moves that I typically would not be getting hit by in any other MMO, because those systems are standard and I'm very used to them. But I found myself getting stomped on more often than I really am used to, and I feel like
face tank quite a few things.
It felt kind of clunky, but I'm sure you would get used to that the more you play it. I've only played it this month in terms of on console. So yeah, combat's cool enough, but some things about it I'm not a big fan of. Though, like healing while fighting, stuff like that, very streamlined, worked really well. There's no confusion, and targeting seemed to work just fine too. So it's a very playable on console MMO, which is nice. It just has some caveats that you have to get used to. I fucking hate this design in any game ever, but in this particularly, I really didn't like fields of enemies. There's no immersion to it, and it's in a lot of MMOs, but some people do it better than others. But the big crime of this game in terms of that particular thing is not that there's fields of enemies. I've played plenty of MMOs that do that. They stand there. They don't even roam. There's so many fields I just walk into and they just sit there. They're all just sitting there, just waiting to get murdered. And I'm like, this doesn't feel like a living, breathing world, which is kind of a shame because you walk into towns and there's fucking NPCs everywhere, super detailed landscapes, buildings everywhere. Like the world is really well designed. It's like hilly. It's not flat at all. Really cool design. I'm like, this is a world I would want to explore if there wasn't so many menus and non-immersive enemies I just got to slaughter because someone told me go kill 50 of these.
Just being a lawnmower.
So just walk into a field where obvious bots are walking around just murdering things and taking, making me take longer to complete my mission and killing enemies that are just standing there staring at me is not compelling gameplay. And so, it's, I've seen it in other games, but this is pretty egregious in this one just because they don't do anything. They're not doing anything. So you could just put like a bunch of pink boxes in the field and be like, go hit those. I'm like, okay, same thing, except for you dress them up with the skin of like a wolf or a goblin or wherever the hell. I do appreciate, even though I didn't follow the story much here, the amount of character models and cinematic nature of some of the missions. It does feel almost like you're playing a Western style open world RPG, kind of like not quite The Witcher, but something like that. Where, I guess I can't really call that Western, but that's really based off a lot of Western action RPGs. It has that kind of vibe when you're doing the cinematic stories, which I think is kind of cool. The inventory drove me nuts. It's super limited, but as you play, you get like a couple chunks of it over time.
Yeah, they would just spend money.
Yeah, but it's like super early on, and like I was like not over encumbered. My bag was full all the time. And in a game where I'm sure it's easy to find stores to sell shit, but like I was just looking around, I'm like, dude, I don't know where the fuck to go. Especially in a game that has auto walk to everything, which is very convenient and takes a lot of task off my hands, which if you're going to offer it, cool, but it's also very immersion breaking. The mobile version also had that, which made sense on a phone. Like, yeah, just go here, go there. But this also has it, and obviously I could choose not to use it if I don't want to have that experience, but why would I if you offer it? And so I use the thing because if it's like, go here to do this quest, I can go figure out how to get there, or I can just press the button, it'll take me there directly. And so I did that, and that's not compelling either. And so, either take it out completely, which they wouldn't do, and I would probably have a more immersive experience, or keep it and I'm going to use it because you offer it, I'm going to use it. And so I did, and I think it cheapens the feeling of I'm building my character in this open world. This is my adventure style game. It feels very... this whole game feels like a fucking keep you busy service, which is a shame because I think graphically it looks good. I think the visual style of the game is really good, super compelling. It's got a lot of things going on that they put a lot of work into to just kind of automate it, to have the experience basically be auto run me here, waste time in a field hitting enemies that just stand there. And this all possibly could get better later in the game. Obviously, I didn't get that far into it. So any longtime players possibly hating what I have to say about it, This is coming from a guy who dabbled in the game to try it out on console. But yeah, for the investment they put into this game to make it look fantastic and really have really detailed, great looking character models and a really cool designed world, there's so much time I'm spending auto running, killing vacant, or not vacant, just like boring enemy types and going through menus a shitload. It's kind of crazy. I feel like this could just be like a menu-based game where it autoplays for me, and it would be about the same feeling. So, yeah, there's a lot of things about this game I really do like, and a lot of things about it I don't like, which kind of sucks because I feel like there's a lot to this game, and you could really put a lot of time into this. But if they just tweaked a couple things, I think they could attract me, because they already did visually, and get me to play this, because there's a lot of things about it I like. But I think I'm just going to have to wait for Crimson Desert, because I really like what they're doing visually here. But as an MMO, it doesn't feel good in a lot of ways for me, and that kind of sucks. So yeah, I had a very mixed experience with this game, and I don't regret it though, because I do think it plays pretty good with the controller. In fact, if I was going to play this on PC, I would maybe plug a controller in to play it and then use my mouse and keyboard for the inventory shit and menu stuff. I think that'd be the go-to for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah.
Anything else? Let's jump into recommendations. I would recommend this to anybody who is into MMOs. Maybe this one will click for you. But yeah, if you play other MMOs, you're looking for something else to play, you haven't tried Black Desert yet, I would say check it out, especially if you got it for free on PlayStation Plus, or if it's on sale, or if they got trials or whatever the hell. I don't know how it works with this game. I think there is plenty of content to this game that it will keep you busy, but you better be okay with some of the things I kind of talked about there. A lot of menus, auto running around. Maybe you like that. I know back in the day, people would mod MMOs to do a lot of automated stuff for them, botting type stuff, and this game kind of does it for you already. So maybe you're okay with that. And yeah, what else? Action games, loosely. If you like action RPGs, you might dig this, because this does have a more action-y combat system. It still is loosely targeting and all that, but it does feel a little action-y in terms of you're hitting the shoulder buttons, at least on controller, and those moves are pretty snappy. The cooldowns are pretty quick, so you're doing moves pretty excessively, and so it might satisfy anybody who's not into like tab targeting, waiting for your moves to cool down. It does feel a little more fast paced. I think that's about it. I don't know who else I'd recommend it
to. Yeah, if you're into crafting, gathering,
living in a
breeding
game,
horses, fishing, housing systems, stuff like that. This game has a lot of that kind of stuff too. In fact, I know for some people that is why they play this game. So that it sounds appealing. This game does have that. And I also know that it has, like, for example, with fishing, you could set it to basically auto fish. So you can go to bed. As long as you have inventory, you'll catch fish. Not super exciting, but, some people, if you're into micromanaging and stuff, which I'm a fan of micromanaging stuff, that kind of stuff can be appealing. So, but that's the only other suggestion I really have, other than if you're into, games with, Korean aesthetics and stuff like that. So,
yeah, agree with all that. Anything else?
No.
All right, we're going to jump into grades. I'm having a really hard time with this because I'm thinking about the game itself and the console experience I had. And there's a lot of pros, a lot of cons. I don't want to be too critical of it, but I also don't want to give it a higher grade because I want to be nice. So I'm really struggling here. I'm gonna give it a really, really, really light B minus. I kind of want to give it a C plus, but I think a lot of my problems are just like my preference as opposed to the game having issues. I think the only real issue the game has is graphical stuff and pop-ins, but I'm able to look past that. So I'm gonna give it a very weak B minus. No, fuck it. I'm gonna give it a C plus. It's fine. It's passable. C's passing. So yeah, I'll give it a C plus. It's on console, playable. I think you could really get into this game. Nothing's really holding you back if you want to get into like a deep MMO on console. This is it. But there's a lot of stuff here that really hindered my ability to become invested in the game. Which is a shame because the things I like about it I really like, but there's a lot of things about it I didn't, and the graphical stuff does kind of knock it down a bit for me in terms of like I'm already kind of teeter-tottering on it, and it does have some real issues that I ran into. So C plus. Sorry for dropping the B minus there, but I was having problems figuring out where I wanted to go with that. So yeah, C plus.
I mean, it's an easy C for me. It's okay. I think the biggest issue I have with the game is not even the nitpicks I've brought up with it, or even like weird graphical stuff and whatnot. My biggest problem is I don't feel compelled to keep playing it.
Yeah.
So I would say, unless you just hate Final Fantasy 14, play that instead on console. That's just a personal. I'm biased, but it's just a better MMO in all regards, I think. But if you hate it, this is here for you. So, and it's fine. So
yeah, and surprisingly, there's still not a whole lot of like legitimate MMOs on console.
You can play ESO.
Yeah, but you can't play PL on PC, which is shit. But you can, true. But there's not a lot. I don't think Guild Wars 2 is on console, and it should be. That game could totally be playable on console.
WoW or not.
Yeah, and WoW. So. But WoW also kind of makes sense with the amount of fucking moves you can have equipped and all that shit. But they could streamline that.
They definitely could.
Yeah, they just haven't.
Final Fantasy 14 could do it. WoW could do it.
Yeah, true. All right, so you gave it a C. I gave it a C plus, a reluctant C plus. Yeah, anything else you want to say before we hop over to the next game? Nope. Let us know in the comments. What did you guys think of Black Desert? Did you play it? Did you not play it? Have you played it on PC? Have you played it on mobile? Did you play it on console? What's been your experience? Also, how far did you play into it? What did you play? What's your favorite class? What's some of your favorite features? If you are a fan of this game, make a case for it. Maybe you hear criticisms and you're like, and be fair with us. Just be like, you guys didn't play far enough. Maybe you gotta get to 30, 40. Like, let's have a conversation about it if you do like the game, because I know people do play this game. So somebody listening to us might be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Yeah, let us know. Does it get better? Maybe we should play it longer. If I did, I'd play it on PC. But yeah, let me know everything you think about in the comments below when it comes to Black Desert. Next game we played in September was Saints Row, which is just called Saints Row. It is a reboot of the series that was not good enough to save Volition. Rest in peace. They made this game. It got a lot of criticism. They backed it 100%. Told people, hey, "Fucking, this is the game. Deal with it." And they got shut down. So Saints Row continues forward. It will not be with Volition, so that kind of sucks. Anyway, just threw that in there. It is a third-person open-world action game where you play as some Gen Z people who are having problems making money and their jobs suck, and they decide to make a gang and run the town as the Saints. Your character got fired or something like that, and you only got a waffle in your freezer, so you eat that, and you capture a church, and you got an HQ, and you're going to start running everything and buying up property. It features third-person shooting, crazy moves you unlock, perks, a shitload of customization, and an open world to explore with storyline missions or story-based missions, and similar to the older Saints Row games, a lot of activities to keep you busy, fun things to do, stuff like that. It has co-op. We'll talk about that. And yeah, we both played it. And did you go first last time?
I did.
All right. So I'll talk about my impressions of Saints Row. So quick thing to throw out there. I have played this already. I bought it on PC. I played it then, and I won't go too far into what I thought of it because I have to talk about it here. But I did run into a lot of bugs, and the co-op was unplayable. This game has a system where when you're playing with a friend, they get invited into your game, and when you initiate missions, you have to ask the person you're co-oping with to accept the mission. Do they want to play this? Because all missions are instanced in this game. You don't seamlessly just start the mission. You have to load into it. And so there was a lot of issues when I played it originally where we were almost in different instances. Me and Josh, where he would be in one part of town, but he'd be seeing me doing something, and I'd be in another part of town, but seeing him on the roof of my car shooting at people that weren't there. So a lot of really crazy stuff that made the game completely unplayable. So moving into playing it this month on PS5, I was hoping to see fixes by now. In terms of the issues I saw, the technical issues. I'm happy to say, playing single player, no issues. I didn't run into any bugs at all. So awesome. It was patched, and very happy to see that. And in co-op, when we played, I didn't see a whole lot of issues, but you did, and I'll let you talk about that. But so there's still some issues, but I think overall the online co-op was better and sometimes playable. So that's an improvement, but not the improvement I was hoping to see. So, gameplay-wise, I think this game is pretty fun. It feels dated for sure to me. If this feels like an older game, but I still found myself having fun. Animations are not great at all. So the game's not great to look at, but it has physics, which I like, and they really play with them. And it kind of makes sense. Volition has a history of physics. I mean, they made Red Faction, where you're blowing holes through the ground and tunneling around before Minecraft ever existed, way ahead of its time. And then, Red Faction Guerrilla, where you could blow up whole buildings and stuff like that. And then Saints Row is always a physics-based shooter as well. So this game carries that forward, and you get some really satisfying explosions where shit just goes flying anyway because, the physics, enemies that you're grabbing, throwing a grenade in them and throwing them and exploding. There's a lot of mayhem that happens in this game that's still satisfying. As a shooter, though, it feels very dated. It feels like 2 generations ago. Dated, which I'm okay with, but it is kind of weird to play a modern game and kind of try to think about the decisions they made when they made this game, because they were very adamant about that this was the game they went with, and very unapologetic about it, which, if you believe in your product, cool, but the game didn't do as well as it could have. And I look at a lot of these things and I'm like, you guys really weren't thinking about the next step in the Saints Row series. You were thinking about what's safe, and I think they went too safe. So yeah, the shooting doesn't feel great, and this game has on console, a very generous aim assist, and I hesitate to say assist. It's like an auto aim. I'm not complaining though, because it's you just run around shooting a lot of enemies anyway, and it snaps to them, and it's whatever. It also has a button you can press to shoot explodable objects
Instantly.
Yeah, you hit triangle and you'll auto shoot it. And so with how gamey this game feels, I kind of don't mind it, because it feels almost like an arcade shooter.
Yeah.
So I'm not really complaining about it. It's just an observation. It's really weird.
It's a little jarring at first because it comes off as if it's going to be a third-person shooter, which technically it is. But
Yeah.
There's so much to it that is just kind of not taking itself seriously in that regard, that I had to kind of also myself kind of just wire my brain to be okay, quit treating this like you're playing just a third-person shooter and treat it more like you're just playing some
it feels closer
goofy
like
action game.
Yeah, it feels closer to like a third-person action game.
Yeah.
But it's got guns. The guns don't feel good. There's some interesting guns for sure in this game, but the guns don't have like a whole lot of recoil. They feel kind of vacant when you're shooting people. Like it just feels like empty air. Like they're just like taking damage until they collapse. And the physics are cool, but like they don't feel good to shoot. So that is a thing. Driving is good enough. I do really like games that have side like slam when you're driving. It's very arcadey feeling, but this game's definitely just going for like fun factor. And so when you're getting chased by the cops, you can slide your car and hit them and knock them into shit, and it's pretty fun. I gotta admit. Story wise, I hate every single character in this game. I think they all look stupid. I think they're written horribly, and I think their performances aren't good. It's really bad. I do not like any of them. I don't think they're likable. There's nothing engaging about them. There's no charm to them. And so that isn't really.
I also don't believe those three people would ever hang out with each other.
Yeah, it's stupid. This game suffers in writing the same thing that Borderlands 3 suffered from. I assume boomers wrote a story they thought Gen Z was going to like. And they're so fucking out of touch on what younger people are going to be into. And I'm like fucking almost 40. I'm 36. And so I'm not a younger person anymore. But even I'm like looking at this going like, who the fuck wrote this? Yeah. This is so stupid. It's not an interesting story, which it could have been, especially if you had engaging characters that were likable. Especially with the amount of missions they have where you go one-on-one with these characters to explore them. But it's so just laid out for you in no interesting way. For instance, there's a guy, one of your crew members, who is like, this fast food place has this fucking, they're bringing back this toy or something like that, or this burger that was really popular when I was a kid, and we got to go get it. And your character's like, oh, what? Okay, like if you really want to. And you're driving there, and he's like, your character's like, oh, haven't you had these already? He's like, well, actually, no. I was in the orphanage back when these came out. And your character's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's get. I'm like, dude, come on. This is like so. It's so simple, it's so stupid. Just like how basic that is. Like it goes from like, oh, they're being kind of goofy to like, oh, it's like it's not. You can't be sympathetic to the character because it's like such a simple, just handed to you thing. Like, oh, he was in the orphanage. Like you don't even like learn this organically through like writing. It's just like, it's written for children, but. Anyway, I don't like the story. I don't like the characters. And I think it was a horrible decision for them to go in this direction in terms of that. And they have written dorky characters that I actually liked in prior Saints Rows. So that's just a new thing, I guess. So anyway, that's out of the way. I do think it's cool that you get to customize and upgrade the church that your HQ ends up being at. I also like the idea of buying properties around the town, investing in them, and creating new activities to do to essentially feel like you are running the city against the other gangs that are also horribly designed and stupid in thought, but fun in terms of like the abilities they have. So yeah, that's the thing. I also think they, even though it looks cheap in a lot of like the animations and the set pieces, I think it's kind of neat how much they tried to make every mission feel like its own thing was happening. For instance, there's one mission early on in the game where it feels like Mad Max, where you're just driving through the desert on this convoy, and there's other missions that aren't like that at all. So the variety's good. There's also a mission that you're probably seeing in our gameplay right now where there's like this citywide LARPing D&D thing going on, and in the co-op we both were put in cardboard armor, and we didn't have actual guns. We had like dart guns with foam, and every NPC that you shoot at was all in the city. They're all in on it for this LARPing thing where like typically you shoot an enemy, they die. In this mission you shoot any enemy and they like go like, oh, and they like lay on the ground and start rolling around like, oh, I'm dying, blah blah blah. And even when you do like these finishers that the game has, where you can do John Wick type stuff. In this mission, just this mission, you walk up and you pretend to grab their heart and pull it out, and they go ooh, and they fall down. And I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
That just for this mission, they did all these little things to give the mission character, so they deserve credit in that regard. Because the missions are varied, and they're I don't care about the story, but what they're doing in the missions I thought was pretty cool. And I did find myself having fun with a lot of the missions, especially in co-op. There's definitely a fun factor there. I just have to overlook, dumb characters talking. What else? The game is overall fun. I played this more here than I actually played it when it originally came out. And I probably would have continued playing it. I haven't uninstalled it yet. But there's so many questionable design choices and writing choices that really makes this game weaker than it could have been, because they got fun factor down. Volition's always had that down, even now when they've made some really weird decisions. But they took a turn for the worse in terms of storytelling and character writing, which I think weakens this game more than it should, but it does. I'm constantly just annoyed anytime any character talks, or even when the characters interact. I'm just like, oh my god, dude, this is fucking stupid. But it's fun. It was a fun game, but it feels dated too. It feels like an older game, but it's fun. The game's fun.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, mine's probably gonna be pretty short, just because I honestly just kind of am gonna echo everything you said. I feel pretty much exactly the same way.
One thing I want to add real fast. Another thing too, this game's got a shitload of co-op customization, and it's actually kind of impressive how much there is. There's a lot of clothes, a lot of colors, and fabrics and materials you can use. Car customization's crazy. There's a lot of customization. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you said. Especially with stuff like you could tell they're having fun with making certain parts of it, and they're very creative about it, and they put the effort in to do things like the make believe LARPing situation and stuff like that. The dialogue is absolutely terrible, though. That's something I definitely noticed pretty quickly. I hated listening to people talk. I wanted them to just kind of shut up as soon as they start talking, which is not how you should feel when you play a game. I did struggle early on playing it, because I was trying to play it like a serious third-person shooter, and then upon just kind of getting over that and getting into the mindset of just it being a goofy actiony game, I had a lot more fun with it at that point. I would say I would have enjoyed the co-op, except for, as not the host, my experience was not smooth at all. I was teleporting all over the place. Things were rubber banding. People would disappear and reappear in places. Animations were goofy. It was bad, to the point where I just was along for the ride and hoped Seth was completing it. So,
I did.
So that's not really ideal, and honestly, feels like it was not tested before they brought it out, which is kind of wild. I have not played a co-op experience in a game in a long time that was this bad.
And that seemed better than when me and Josh played.
Yeah, and it's just I honestly think it's inexcusable. So
it sucks too, because Volition's gone now,
Yeah.
so it's I don't know if that's getting fixed.
And it does suck, because I do see some potential for fun in this game, especially because my mentality is still kind of locked into I think it's the last one, where you basically are a superhero and stuff, which was atrocious. I hated that game. Everything I loved about Saints Row was gone in that game.
Yeah.
And this was a step back. Thank you. Back to just kind of a on the ground, very Looney Tunesy, but still grounded in a way type game. The only thing I don't like about it is it's a little too Looney Tunesy and like, it's too busy trying to be goofy and like, and quote unquote witty, even though it's not. And like, I think a lot of people who played multiple Saints Row games, and Saints Row 2, the game had a serious storyline with some like dorky things said from time to time, but it was still kind of like a little more serious in tone, I'd say.
Well, it's interesting because the first Saints Row was like trying to be a competitor to Grand Theft Auto, but it's also being a parody to like gang stuff. And it definitely didn't take itself too serious, even though the story was just like gang stuff. And then Saints Row 2 carries that over. I love Saints Row 2. I think it's the best one. It carries over all those elements, but then had like serious storylines happening with characters that you have become invested with. So you are like, oh fuck yeah, we gotta take care of that, or we gotta help him out, stuff like that. And then 3 got just a little crazier, and then 4 just they ran out of ideas, so they made a superhero game. But the thing that all those games kind of had that this game also just completely rejected is there's an edge to them and their humor that didn't feel very safe. Like this game completely was trying to avoid that, and with that I think they weren't able to give it any kind of character.
Yeah, I just feel like at some point these characters are just gonna be talking and someone's gonna pull out a whoopee cushion. Like it's fucking stupid. Like
it is stupid, but like just to kind of really emphasize that point, there's and I always thought it was a dumb name for anything, but like there's a restaurant called Freckle Bitches in Saints Row, and this they called FBs. They didn't want to call it Freckle Bitches. So you can tell in the writing room they went like, let's tone that down a little bit. It's like Freckle Bitches? That's a stupid name. But like you're gonna like be like, well, it's called FBs. Then there's a place called I think it's called Rim Jobs, which obviously means one thing, but also is kind of in a adolescent way clever because it's a car place, so it's Rim Jobs. Like it's stupid, but like in this they called it Jim Robs or something like that. So they kind of kept it, but they changed the 2 in front, and like you can just tell that they really wanted to bleach the humor that Saints Row is known for, which was adolescent stupid, but like it had character at least. And so with that also is very apparent in the writing, where all the characters are just like one-dimensional, and the stories even like. At least in the original Saints, I'm just kind of ranting at this point, but like the other Saints Rows had like a lot more character in terms of like your gang versus the other gangs and the dynamics of their leaders. And in this, it just feels like it's like trying to mimic that in the shadow of those games. It's like, well, you played Saints Row, so you know it's about gangs, right? So we out the gangs. Okay, well, what makes them interesting?
Are they gangs?
Well, yeah, but like then you're like, okay, well, what makes them interesting? Well, those guys look like Daft Punk with suits. Okay, what about them? They don't like you. Okay, so yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it's sterile.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, just if I ignore all that crap, which it can do, I think the game had potential to be a fun, especially co-op game. I just don't think I'll ever see that realized at this point. So. It was, to quote the last game even, it was fine.
Yeah, agreed. One last thing too I want to add, because it does sound like we're kind of critiquing it quite a bit, because there's some obvious things, but we have said multiple times now it's fun.
Sure.
I didn't like the perks at first, but I invested the time, and when you start getting options of what you want equipped when it comes to the perks, it does start to become fun in an arcadey way. And so I did like that as well, which I at first didn't. So just worth mentioning. Also, to reinforce the mission thing, there's a mission where we went through a prison. I thought that mission was kind of cool too, because it was just chaotic after a while. So there was definitely some fun stuff.
Minus the quote-unquote stealth part, but yeah.
Oh, dude, the stealth was fucking awful. And it was so awful that they tried to be like, what's the word I'm looking
Self-aware?
for? Self-aware. Thank you. They try to be self-aware about it, but it's just like you could just tell like you guys put no effort into this, and now you're trying to cover that up by being self-aware about like,
Make
oh,
them
I'm stealthing.
Main character's a meathead and doesn't understand stealth.
Yeah, for anybody who didn't play this or play it that far, at least maybe, there's a stealth sequence where they make a big deal about you have to stealth through it, and the stealth equates to if you walk near a person, they will slowly build a bar. Well, not even slow, quickly build a bar to recognize you and you fail. So you have to. The strategy is walk past them. Just keep walking. Don't stop. Just keep walking. That's the stealth. It's some of the worst stealth I've seen in a fucking game ever. So, and I complain about games that just have the system where if you're in the shadows, you're hidden, and if you're in the light, you're not. That always feels lazy as well. But this is really fucking egregious. So
Yeah, but at least that's stealth.
yeah. At least it's minimal stealth. This isn't stealth at all. So it's just like don't stand there too long. So, yeah. Got anything else?
No.
Okay, let's jump into recommendations. I would recommend this to anybody who likes third-person shooters, anybody who likes the prior Saints Row games. It's not the best one by any means, but if you are familiar with Saints Row, you'll be familiar with this gameplay-wise. It feels very much like those when they came out. If you like games with a lot of customization, I would recommend it to you. I also would recommend this to anybody who, on a very light level, likes the idea of like buying property in a city and not quite micromanaging it, but you are on a very minimal level micromanaging in terms of you're picking where to put these buildings in the city. You also can customize your church, which is cool. I would recommend it to people who like co-op, but 2 times now on console and on PC, I have ran into issues. So there's a strong caveat to maybe skip it altogether. But if
you have the patience of a saint, man.
If you are lucky and you have no issues in the co-op, I think the game's better in co-op if it's working, which it doesn't. So that sucks. I think that's all I got. If you've played all the open world crime games out there and you need another one, you're not going to be bored playing this. So I'll give you that too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not the type of person who's like going to nitpick every little thing that, like we have, and you could just like sit down and just play the game for what it is, I think you'll have a good enough time. And so, yeah, if you're just looking for some mindless fun, I think it's worth checking out. So
I think this is going to be the longest Plus Club we've ever done because we're already over an hour. Oh my God. Excuse me. Any other recommendations?
No.
All right, let's jump into our grades.
Okay.
My brain's shook loose right now, so I had to think really hard.
I think if the co-op worked, I would be willing to give it a B-, but because it is busted, I'm going to give it a C+. I think the game is fine. I think it has a lot of fun to it. I think it's a huge step from the last game.
It is better than
4. So yeah. I don't hate this game.
Yeah.
But the co-op being broken is such a detriment. It's crazy because it's like the way I would want to play the game and I can't.
It's interesting. We don't need to have this whole conversation, but it's better than 4 gameplay wise, but the story in 4 is stupid, but it's not annoyingly stupid. It's just dumb. But in this, the story's fucking like annoyingly stupid. So it's interesting that it's hard for me to even say that it's better than 4, but I do think it is.
I think 4 is so like past being lost in its way that it was depressing. So
I mean, I agree. I fucking love Saints Row 2, and more people nowadays talk up Saints Row 2, and I'm like, fucking thank you.
Yeah.
'Cause for a while there was like Saints Row 3. That was everybody's favorite. But 2,
3 was okay.
2's the sweet spot. So you gave it a C+.
Yeah.
I'm gonna also give it a C+. I originally wanted to give it a C. When I was playing it, I was like, I'm gonna give this a C, just because it's fine. But I give it the plus because sometimes I was having some fun with it, and I wanted to keep playing. during those times. But then other things would pop up that made me go like, I don't like that, or oh, that sucks that you're not enjoying the co-op because I am. That's a drag because I think I could have played this game. I probably could have beat this game.
Yeah.
Co-op, like, it's the missions are varied and fun, and a lot of the stuff gameplay wise is satisfying, but it's broken. And playing a single player game, the story kind of matters, and I hate the story of this one. So,
and what the naked guy, the nerd, and the weird. I don't even know what she is.
The driver chick, dude.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, cars in my gang, cars matter, and it's worse than getting killed.
They live in harmony.
Yeah, it's
right.
stupid. It's stupid. It's like a really bad fucking sitcom.
True.
Yeah. And the idea of any of these people being someone who'd be like willing to kill somebody is just ridiculous because they're all just like fucking like in college, like I don't know shit about the world characters. So it's stupid. Anyway, 2 C pluses.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Let us know in the comments. What did you guys think of? And let's be fair here as well, since we were critical of this, and a lot of people are way more critical than we are of this game. But there's people who like it as well, and I'm open to all those ideas. So let us know in the comments. What do you think of Saints Row? What do you think about this as a reboot? What features in this game did you like? What features did you not like? What do you think about the writing and the characters? Maybe you do like them. I've never heard that from anybody, but maybe you do, and I'm completely very interested in hearing your opinion on that. And then, have you played the co-op? Did you play it without problems? Because I've tried this twice now on 2 different things and had issues. So let me know your experience there. And what's your favorite thing about this game? And what's the best Saints Row? What's your favorite one? There's no wrong answers here, except for, of course, in my opinion, 2 is the best. But I know a lot of people love 3. And some people like 4. Let me know what you think about in the comments below when it comes to Saints Row. Last game we played in September was Generation Zero. If you didn't get a chance to play Generation Zero, it is a first-person survival light game that takes place in Sweden after a bunch of robots have taken over the island you live on and killed most of the people. You are tasked with surviving the robots, trying to find out why the robots are there, and trying to find survivors on the island and get them together to essentially resist the robot menace. The game is a first-person shooter, like I said before. It involves a lot of scavenging through everything constantly, looking through bags, looking through houses, looking through cars. It involves a lot of crafting in the game later, making med kits, weapons, stuff like that, upgrading weapons as you find them. It's got I forget what it's called, where it's like tiered rarity of weapons. It has stealth mechanics, where you're sneaking up on stuff, where you can go guns blazing. It's got a skill tree with a bunch of perks. Vehicles, there's bicycles. I found out after the fact when I played this on PC, after we played on console, that they added motorcycles to this game. They're still supporting this game, and the roadmap goes into next year, which is fucking wild. I don't know who's playing this game, but they're supporting it. They got other vehicles they're going to be adding soon. It's crazy. And it has, worth mentioning, a big island to explore, but also enemy types that have strong armored points and weak points that makes shooting at them a little more interesting than some shooters where they just have a lot of health and you got to kill them quickly. We both played this, and I've played this game and beat it on PC, so I'm pretty experienced with the game, but I'll be talking, of course, about my opinion of the console version, but this was your first time playing it, so let us know your impressions.
So when I first tried playing this, I went in very, very blind and ignorant. And
yeah, I love the way you told me. You're like, I didn't know what I was playing, and as soon as you started, you're like, I might want to play this co-op.
Yeah, as soon as I started playing it, I was like, I had no idea what I was getting into. It tasks you with going into this house and it's teaching you how to do all the things the game wants you to do at some point, and while also like laying out what happened and what you're going to be doing. And it starts mentioning, I'm getting the vibe there's no people. And it's mentioning like these robots came and attacked and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't think I want to play this by myself, and I shut it off. So that was my first experience. So it did nothing for me. I did finally sit down and play with you. I was able to actually ask questions and get information because reading tutorials just don't really do it for me these days. I need to be told things and not have to read them, which is lazy on my behalf, but it is what it is. So the first big hurdle, and I'd be surprised if you don't have to do this, but the sensitivity is jacked in this game. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking when they made the sensitivity for a controller, but it starts, I think, at 10.
Yeah.
And I had to turn it down to 2 just to function.
It's like 360 no scope, fucking sweaty, 10 sensitivity. I play first-person shooters fairly regularly, and I play them on console. No stranger to them at all. As soon as I started, I was just like, "Are you fucking serious?" I went to turn the analog stick, and my guy just goes, "Whew," and I was like, "This is default? Why the fuck would it be up this high?" So I checked, and I was like, maybe this is like their 5 or something like that. Like maybe this kind of wonky. It's like at 10. I was like, why is it up here? So I lowered it down to 4, down to 3. It's feeling a little more normal. And then I think I left it at 3, and then I put the ADS, the aim down sight sensitivity, down to 2. So I had to lower that shit significantly for me just to be able to. And this game doesn't really have aim assist. So I was like, okay, lack of aim assist and crazy sensitivity. I gotta crank this fucker down, and I did.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I've never played a game on console that was like that brave to just be like, here's 10 sensitivity, get good.
Yeah. I am pleased to say that after that, though, my complaints kind of stopped. The gameplay loop of scavenging, and that scavenging they're not set items. Some are, because there's a story and quest lines.
Yeah, there's unique items.
But there is just random stuff in suitcases, in drawers, in cars, in the you can pull batteries out of the cars to make improvised EMPs, and there's stuff everywhere, right? There's random clothing that drops as well, so you can just dress your character up as serious or goofy as you want to. Like you mentioned, this rarity to gear. So you start off with gray weapons, and you go to green, and I assume blue, purple, orange, etc. You had kind of brought this up as well, but when you do finally start getting into enemy types, you start off with these just real basic, smaller robots, but they have gas tanks on them, and if you hit those, they're no problem, but they move. The gas tank's small. It's easy to miss sometimes, and then they charge you because they're robots. They don't move slow. They just zip at you. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a cool take on what is effectively a zombie game.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of appreciate that, because as much as I like the idea of a DayZ or similar type game, I kind of like the twist of it being robots. It also, sadly, is a little more realistic, because that's more likely to happen than zombies. So
I also like it too because it offers enemy types that feel more akin to something like Monster Hunter, or especially later, you didn't even get to the big fucking robots.
No, we sat for a while.
Yeah, we played for a while too, but we just never got to that point because you got to get, I think, off the small island, which we're still on. But there's armored points, weak points, and then you get all these tools like EMPs, stereos that distract them. You can throw flares that throws their sensors off. There's all these tools that you really. And these robots will kill the fuck out of you if they get a shot on you. And they also spot you from across a field. So it's not just a mindless shooter. There's strategy that you can use and implement in combat scenarios that I think robots lend themselves to much better than another zombie game.
Well, and there were moments where because we're both playing on controller that has weird sensitivity, I'm just inherently bad at anyways, and then you're like you said, the sensitivity is a little weird even for you.
I was I was missing more often than I would typically.
Yeah, and so I got plenty of experience in the game watching a robot go from not seeing someone to being like, I'm being shot at from that direction, to going, oh, they're right there, and watching their behaviors in that. Also, they're searching when they have an idea of where you are is really good too, because they don't just find you. They don't just know you're there, which is
a
great.
really good stealth system.
There were plenty of times where I just laid down and started crawling off to the side, and they'd lose me. They'd be standing almost on top of me, but because I was basically camoed, they couldn't see me, which is fantastic. Even though, more realistically, it's a robot, it would have like thermal, and I'd be fucked. But
Yeah, one thing in a lot of games that offer stealth that drives me nuts is once you've initiated combat with anything, enemies in the vicinity will just be part of that combat and start attacking you. And that's fine. That's pretty typical and standard. But this game, there's multiple times where there's like a field, there's multiple robots, and I snipe one of the robots and hit its tank and just blow it up. It's dead. They go on alert. But like,
and they'll go check out the dead robot.
They'll like run over there, or if the gun was loud enough, they'll run in the direction of where the gunshot came from, and they'll like investigate for a while. And if they see you, they'll initiate combat, or eventually they'll like walk off somewhere else or go back to what they're doing. So there's a lot of dynamic elements to whether you're going guns blazing or stealthing. That it is not a game that has a hard switch of stealth is on or off right now. There's plenty of gray area in between that makes a lot of situations where you got to go like, hold on, like what are they going to do? Like, you got to be on your toes, and I fucking love that shit. So
yeah, it's definitely, it's very engaging, which I think is important. I don't mind playing a mindless shooter either, don't get me wrong, but sure. I do think it is more stimulating if there's a little bit of thinking. I don't need it to be like crazy. I don't need to be Arma 3, right?
Yeah, there's levels to this for sure.
Yeah, but I do think it has just enough to be more stimulating, but not to the point of being like, you know, a frustrating tactical shooter, you know, for example, which is going to have a niche audience in comparison. So, yeah, I think it's fun in that regard. I like the exploration feel of the game. Even though you're doing quests, there's a lot of, you know, times where it's really easy to be like, oh, there's a house over there, let's go see what kind of loot we can find. You're spending a lot of your time doing that, and then even in combat, you could decide, do I go in guns blazing, which, you know, we were just kind of doing for the most part, but occasionally, you know, we would use like a radio or an EMP or something like that, or if you get real lucky, they get close to each other, and if you blow up a gas tank, they all blow up.
Oh, it's so satisfying, especially on controller when like I'm trying to get the perfect shot. I'd hit a tank and it'd blow up 3 of them, and I'm like, I killed 3 guys, 1 bullet. Like,
yeah,
because like on PC, I did a lot of run and gun shit. Like I would like sneak up, run in there, start unloading on them. But in this, I was like, if we get into combat, I'm not going to be as precise with my shooting as I would be with a mouse. So like, I'm going to try and make sure this shot fucking counts. Yeah. And when it did, it's like, I'm saving ammo doing this shit. So
yeah, and then you know, the story itself, or the quest line that has you go down, it's serviceable. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. It does what it needs to do. It mostly acts as kind of a tutorial for the most part, while, you know, introducing more and more game features and stuff like that.
Kind of like the simplicity of the story, because you're not told what happened. You're just like, there's robots, what's going on? Then you find a survivor, and they're like, I had family, I don't know what the hell happened to them. And then you're trying to locate her family for her, and she's like following you as you make places safe.
Telling you what to do all the time.
Yeah, she becomes the boss real fast, especially when you meet this one dude in a bunker, and all of a sudden they're buddy instantly, and they're like, this is what you're going to do. And it's like, whoa, motherfucker, I'm the only one who's like killed 50 robots. What have you done?
Right.
I should be in charge. You guys go fucking do shit. But I like the simple story of like the mystery and survival of like all these people trying to figure out what the hell's happening. There's like almost a survival horror feeling to the story, which I really dig, because the world and the robots and everything has this really cool atmospheric vibe to it. Yeah. Like it feels really desolate, but there still are people. You're not just on an empty island. And so there's a really cool vibe to the game.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is a little basic for sure.
Yeah, and then like visually, like it's not the most graphically impressive thing ever, but it's got a good style to it.
It looks so much better on PC.
I believe you. Yeah, I don't really know what else to add to it. Overall, I think it's a pretty good experience. My only complaint the whole time was when I started it, not knowing what it was, and that's more my fault because I just kind of hopped into a game. I wouldn't buy a game that way, so but the plus games we just get. So I was like, oh, time to play, and I was like, I don't know what this is, and then the sensitivity. And it's fixable. But like that's a really crazy starting point.
It's weird because like I think that's my only complaint about my experience playing this game on console was the sensitivity, and even when I turned it down and I could aim, it still didn't feel as good as it could have because it probably needs some kind of light aim assist.
Yeah.
But then they have like small quality of life things that I wish more games would do. Where like in a game where you're looting a lot of shit constantly and pressing square and you got to hold square. A lot of games need to do this and they don't. You can just hold square and it'll do whatever you need. And if you're still holding square and you pan over to another thing, it activates it as well. You don't have to keep pressing square.
Yeah.
And it sounds like such a small thing, but like I appreciate the ease of use of that in terms of a game where you are looting so many things. It's a really that small thing goes a long way, and so they thought about that. But then some asshole was like, and I say that respectfully because I think I like this game a lot, and the dev's really good. But somebody made a fucking mistake when they're like, yeah, just crank the sensitivity. I don't need aim assist. This is a hardcore game. Fuck them.
Yeah, it's a wild decision. But other than that, I had a good time. Pleasantly so, because my first impression when I decided I wasn't going to wait for Seth to play the game was pretty negative, to be honest.
It's so funny because before we were even able to play these on console, I was like, I got to get Chevy to play this co-op because I think he's going to like it. And then I was telling you like, oh, hey, we should play. And you're like, oh, I already played all three of the games. So I'm like, oh, no. No. I was like, do you still have Generation Zero installed?
Yeah.
Because I would like to play that co-op with you. And you're like, well, I did the beginning. I'm like, no, we got to play this. And so, yeah, you sounded like when you first talking, you're like, yeah, I did a couple things. I'm like, no, we gotta get into it. Like, there's a lot you're not going to see until we play it some more. And it did seem like you became more interested in it as we played. So, I'm glad that I was able, because I was like, I feel like you're going to like the game. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like this game. I played through it and beat it on PC, and maybe that sounds like it would maybe hinder my experience here of like, oh, I gotta play it again. I was having fun playing it again. It was almost better to have to start over again and start working through the perks because I was like, it's harder now. Like I gotta actually think about shit a little bit more than my character on PC, who's I think I'm like fucking 30 or something like that. I think 31 is where you stop getting perk points. So you gotta really pick and choose your skills. So yeah, starting over again, I didn't even think about how I've beaten the game before. I was like, this game's fucking fun. Things I like about it, I think the gunplay is good. The game is not quite arcadey. It leans into the hardcore area without being too hardcore. So you kind of, I agree what you're saying there. It's not Arma 3, but it's also not like a basic shooter. Like you got to think, you got to heal, you got to make sure you don't get murdered. And that's like perfect for me. It's got a really good sweet spot. But the shooting, when you're not struggling with the weird sensitivity, does feel tight and kind of not quite arcade shooter, but like it doesn't feel like overly sim either, which I really like.
Even though it has crouch and prone.
Yeah, which I love. Every game has crouch step prone. I fucking love being able to have options in terms of how I go up. I mean, Doom doesn't need laying down, but like a lot of games, I'm like, you can't fucking lay down in this. So yeah, also has very, and I'm saying this lightly, has very competent stealth in it. In a multiplayer game too, sometimes it's harder to do full on stealth when you have a lot of things happening. One guy fucks up and everyone's now
a target
seen.
Yeah.
It has a really robust system that allows it to be dynamic, so I like that a lot. I love the island. It's designed really well. There's a lot of varied natural landscapes and a lot of repeat buildings you'll find, but I don't mind so much because the interiors a lot of time are different. They must have a system that randomizes the inside, but you become used to like what kind of building this is. Oh, it's the blue building with the upstairs and it's got the bathroom at the top of the stairs. But you don't mind because sometimes there's enemies in the buildings, sometimes there's different enemies around the buildings, and there's always different loot, or sometimes no loot in the buildings. And I like that because you don't know what you're always fucking rolling the dice. It's like a slot machine every time you go to a building, and it's fun. A lot of games I'm not really trying to search every little thing, but in this I'm like, there could be something good in that building, so you want to go in there. But even with the graphics on console, which are not nearly as good as the PC version, the design of the world has a haunting look to it that I really like, whether it's daytime or nighttime, different weather effects. I love exploring the wilderness of this like Swedish island. It's a really cool visual style, and even with some of the repeated building types, there's some unique areas too. There's one area that's like a outhouse out in the woods that's haunted. You go out there and some spooky shit happens, and it's only there. So there's some very unique areas that I like the attention to detail, and it's only gotten better. I played this game when it originally came out, and it was basically a sandbox robot shooter game with loot. Now, like, there's like NPCs you can talk to, and they've just added a bunch of shit that just has slowly made the game feel more, it's just better overall. But anyway, I really like the visual style, even on console. Let's see, shooting's good. The variety of weapons is also good. You haven't seen all of them yet, but there's actually quite a bit of weapons with different specific upgrades. I also love that the game has different kinds of ammo. And you have to know your ammo types too, which is fun. You can look at your gun and it'll tell you what kind of ammo it takes, but different types of rifles will use different kinds of ammo like in real life, and then you can switch from like Full Metal Jacket to armor piercing rounds, and these do matter. You'll find more in abundance and they do damage, but then the armor piercing rounds will go through their fucking armor and it makes combat easier, but those are more scarce. And then you got a bunch of explosive weapons, which are a lot of fun to use too. And then I really like all the fucking tools that you get. Like, you can really build up like strategies. My strategy personally is to fucking crawl up on a robot and then take a shotgun and put it fucking point blank in their back and just shoot them. But you got to be able to get close to them to do that. And when the shit hits the fan, I typically just fucking run in there and start blasting them because I want to. When they start shooting at you, your health just goes. Oh, yeah. So I'm like, I got to drop this guy as fast as possible. But the tools are a lot of fun and they've added more, which we didn't experience on console, but I have on PC now. But yeah, using like radio or stereos, flares, all sorts of stuff to, especially on PC, having firefights at night when you're throwing flares and there's the lighting's all crazy and shit is like wild. It's a really cool thing visually. So yeah, I really like that. I really like the combat. I really like the robots. I think they all have different behaviors and different weak spots and different characteristics that makes it really engaging and fun. I also like, even though when you mention it, like, you got to find all these bunkers, explore them, and turn them on, turn the power on. It's a repeated gameplay loop in the game. All the bunkers are different. They're similar visually, and it's kind of neat because when you first go through them, the power's out, so it's like dark and it's creepy. But then you turn the lights on, and then you've captured the place, and you can explore all of it, and they're fucking huge. But they're also all different, so that's pretty neat as well. So it doesn't feel like you're just doing the same thing over and over again. The game's also got an end game that I've barely explored called Phoenix Rising. We didn't experience that on console, but there's stuff to do once you've beaten the game. It has an expansion as well, which is worth noting. That adds a new island that's really neat. And yeah, I could probably gush about this game for a while, but I really like it, and I liked it on console. The only complaint is the aiming could be better. It could be tighter. They could bring in somebody who's worked on console first-person shooters. People have made great shooters on console, and just give them some pointers on how to make aiming a little better, because it's definitely not the best it could be, whether it's the sensitivity or the lack of minimal aim assist. Other than that, though, I had a blast playing this, and I ended up buying it for you on PC because you expressed interest in playing it on PC, which is
need time.
Which is the place you're going to want to play it if you play this game. And so I could definitely see myself revisiting it, and this was a good refresher on why I like this game so much.
Yeah.
Even on console. But I'm not putting time into it on console after this because it's wasted time. Yeah, anything else?
Nope.
All right, jump into recommendations. If you like first-person shooters, if you like cooperative first-person shooters, if you like shooters that have loot, perks, stuff like that, if you like stealth games, this has a pretty decent stealth system in it. If you like survival games, this is kind of like a survival game. I do believe you can build stuff in this game. I don't remember, though. But it has a lot of scavenging going on. If you like games like DayZ without other players bothering you, it does have kind of a DayZ vibe to it, in terms of like the exploration and survival aspects. If you like sci-fi, 80s sci-fi, it has I really fucking like the theme. I think it's cool that it's like set in the 80s in Sweden. It's authentically Sweden. You can play the game in Swedish, which I think is kind of cool. And the robots are really neat, and the mystery of the robots, especially as you explore the island later and you start seeing kind of what happened here on the shore up north. It's pretty fucking neat. So if you're a fan of that like 80s sci-fi, almost horror storytelling, I think you'll dig it. If you like combat that involves weak points and using the right tool for the right situation, it has that as well. It's engaging in that way. So, yeah. Anything else you would add to that?
No, you took the one I was going to take. So,
all right. You did impressions first?
Yes.
So I got to grade it. I'm fucking biased, so I'm like trying not to be too, because I really like this game a lot. On console, it had a weakness with the sensitivity, but I trucked through that, so whatever. I'm gonna give it a light A-. I really like this game a lot, and it's only gotten better over time, and I'm happy to say that it was a good experience on console. So, light A-.
I'm going to give it a strong B+. I do feel there's room for growth there, but I have basically only played the beginning of the game. So,
yeah, you're off the first island.
But it's fun. If it even remotely sounded interesting, like any of those aspects, you should definitely give it a shot.
And the co-op works.
A little bit of a slow burn in the beginning, so to kind of push through that. But once you kind of get a hold of the gameplay loop, it's fun. And you can play by yourself or with people. How big's co-op? Is it 4? So, yeah. And it's also, I know this is a PlayStation Plus episode, but for your PC or Xbox friends, it's on Game Pass as well. So,
is it?
Yeah. I got Chris to download it.
Oh, cool.
So. Yeah.
All right. There's some Generation Z for a 0 for everybody. Like I'm just fucking Gen Z, dude. Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Let us know in the comments what you guys think of Generation Zero. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you not play it? If you didn't play it, why didn't you play it? Does it not interest you for whatever reason? And if you did play it, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What do you think about the robots? What do you think about the story? What do you think about the island? What do you think about the exploration? And yeah, let me know what you're thinking about in the comments below when it comes to that game and all the games we played. But that's going to do it for this episode of Plus Club. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to check out our other episodes. Check us out on our socials and streams, link down below. You can check out our Discord as well, link down below. You can talk to us anytime, all the time. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms if you prefer to listen to us in audio form. And we have a Patreon if you'd like to support the channel more than liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing if you're brand new. Also have a TikTok link down below where I post personal videos that are in short form, and some of those make their way here on Shorts, so keep an eye out for those, even though I have to edit those to meet the 60-second limitation that YouTube has. Hopefully they get rid of that. And vote for Game of the Month, because in a day we will be finding out what you guys' picks are. So you don't have a whole lot of time, but you still have time. So make sure to vote. I've been Seth. This has been Chevy. Thank you, Chevy, for joining me. And thank you guys for joining us for this long Plus Club. But until the next episode, which will be Game of the Month for Final Fantasy 14, I beat Heaven's Ward. So we'll talk about that. Have a good one, guys, and take it easy.